Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2022, and today I want to talk to you all about toxic work environments. Many of us currently work in toxic work environments that can be really unbearable, that can be just demoralizing. Sometimes we work with coworkers and supervisors who are threatened by our intellect, our skill sets, the way that we interact with other people and clients, and they engage in these very passive aggressive behaviors towards us, and we just don't understand sometimes where it's coming from. A lot of it is coming from their own jealous spirits, their own envy, their own unhealed wounds. I realize that there's a correlation between childhood abuse and also the work environments that we choose. In some instances, I've seen this dynamic with myself. Um, I realized that I've had supervisors who have tried to talk me out of my feelings, and I've let them do that because I've trusted their leadership. I've blindly trusted their leadership without interrogating if their leadership was to my benefit. Um, I look back in my childhood and ask myself, were there times in my childhood when I did the same thing? When I blindly trusted an adult or a caretaker without interrogating if their care was actually right for me. And of course, you know, I realized that as a child I was abused. And at the time I didn't acknowledge and know I was abused. I didn't even know that. I was blind to it because you grow up and oftentimes the abuse is normalized. It's normalized as healthy functioning. And these unhealthy dynamics are passed off as, oh, this is just nothing. Oftentimes as a child I was made to feel like my feelings were wrong. um like I was overreacting, that I was making a big production out of things that were actually abusive. And I think the first step to healing abuse is identifying abuse. Knowing what's abuse and what's actually healthy behavior. And I think oftentimes this is hard, especially when you grew up in an unhealthy environment. Um, you have to understand this is by no means discrediting my caretakers at all. I moved beyond that. I realized that people did the best they could with what they knew at the time. But at the same time, I recognize that sometimes those lessons that I've learned, those behaviors that I experienced, they weren't the most healthiest. And being able to identify that, to articulate that, to put that into words, yes, I was abused. I did experience XYZ. That is abuse. That is a form of abuse. That is not okay. And how this translates into my work environment is that oftentimes I will not acknowledge the tactics and the techniques that these employers use. You know, they engage in abusive behaviors, and I normalize that, you know? And also this blindly trusting, you trust that you'll be supported here. Oh, my supervisor, they're good. They want to support me. They want to help me out. No, no. Not everybody who claims to have your back really wants to see you succeed. A lot of times they just don't want to look like the bad guy. And so they want to give this illusion of support. And that's what's being given at my current place of employment, this illusion of support, this illusion that I'm protected, I'm supported. No. And so I think that definitely it's important that when you're working in toxic work spaces, you go back into your childhood and you really unpack some of the dynamics that you put up with and still put up with as a result of those adverse childhood experiences. And I have to do my own work. This is part of doing your own work because there are certain dynamics that happen at work that have also happened in your earlier life. And sometimes you're not aware of those things until you enter into this toxic work environment and it begins to trigger you. And you ask yourself, wait a minute, why am I so triggered by this coworker's behavior? Why am I so triggered by this employer's behavior? Because it reminds me of an unhealed section of my life that I need to address. I think also when you're working at toxic work environments, it's important to gain control of not only your emotions, but also the dynamic. You have to get behind the dynamic and really begin to steer the ship. Because a lot of times it's all about control. With a lot of toxic work environments, people want to try to dominate, they want to assert dominance, they let their ego drive their interactions. They don't really want to foster a connection. They want to give you the illusion that this is a team, that everybody likes everybody here, that everybody is like a family. It's all intended to control you. You're easier to control when people think that, for one, you're stupid. That's one. And also when you're overly cooperative. They try to sell you this team, which to me is selling illusions. They try to sell you this team mindset. But when it comes to making decisions, they don't factor in the team. The team is the last thing that they think about, But they'll sell you this, oh, we're family, we're this, we're that, just to facilitate the work. Because ideally, if you feel like this is a family, you want to contribute. And they know that's human nature. But you have to ask yourself, is this family functioning? Is this family working for me? This supposed work family, is this family working for me? Do they got my back? And so oftentimes in toxic work environments, they don't have your back. They have a knife inside your back, but they don't have your back. But once again, it's this illusion of support, this selling you this illusion. So you have to get from behind the scenes of this illusion and begin to ask yourself, wait a minute, how is this benefiting me? I also think that it's important to know the chain of commands, who you talk to just in case you do have a grievance. That's so important. When you first start a job, I didn't do this initially. You read that employee manual from cover to cover, you have it memorized. You commit it to memory because chances are you will have to refer to it throughout the course of your career. I realize that, smooth transactions would be nice. It would be nice if everything was smooth sailing, but sometimes there are some bumps in the road. And when those bumps in the road happen, you have to have a remedy. Because I realize that people also don't respect kindness. They don't respect niceness no, they respect people who put them in check. They respect people that hold them accountable. That's what they respect. So you have to make sure that you're holding people accountable. It's crucial. And so definitely know the grievance policies, know exactly who you have to speak to just in case you have to file a grievance. Also, begin to explore other options. If it becomes too much, it becomes too hectic, and you find that your pre-existing coping skills are not working, then you're going to have to explore another option. You should always, always, always keep your options open. Never get so committed to these jobs and these agencies and these companies to the point where you basically just stop exploring your options. Because about these companies, when they're ready to let you go, they let you go. They don't care. They could care less. You have to always do what's in your best interest. Also, identify what's important to you. I know that at my next job, what's important to me, of course, is salary. Benefits, you want to make sure that you have adequate benefits, but also diversity. For me, it's diversity. Are there any other diverse cultures working here? Because that's also a way that you hold companies accountable. When you see diversity, they can't. They can't. Of course, some do still do, but they can't discriminate against you. They can't allow their biases to really drive and take the reins because they're being held accountable. They're being watched. They know that. So my thing is, something, knowing that there's diversity here definitely is important to me. So knowing exactly what you want, what you want from an agency, because you know that you have a lot to offer. I know that I have a lot to offer an agency. Now I'm asking what they can offer me. It's a mutual relationship. It's mutually beneficial, hopefully. In a healthy working relationship, it's mutually beneficial. When it stops being mutually beneficial and the costs start to outweigh the benefits, that's when you have to rethink things. I think also if you work in a toxic work environment, it's important to have a self-care plan. How are you going to take care of yourself within this environment? If that includes going for walks, talking to a friend, maybe taking your lunch, which seems like a given, but a lot of us don't take our lunch. We get so bogged down with the office politics and also our duties and responsibilities, we fail to take our lunches. No, always take your lunch. Take care of yourself. So having that self-care plan, that wellness plan to keep you safe is crucial. You need that. And so I encourage everybody to be honest. If you're working in a toxic work environment, begin to assess, for one, past childhood wounding, how that comes into play. Because you'll replay those same dynamics at your place of work, especially if your place of work purports themselves as a family. You'll begin to be triggered because your real family, your biological family, your created family, the family that your chosen family even, that has dynamics too that you have to unpack, because those dynamics will carry over into your job. And you'll start to see behaviors from coworkers that can definitely be triggering. I think in a lot of toxic work environments, there's so many things you have to look out for. There's a lot of mob tactics. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of coworkers who try to gang up on you whenever you exude a form of authority or confidence. There's a lot of that exists within these spaces. And so you have to be aware of it. There's so much passive aggressive behavior. People try to weaponize the CC feature on emails. I noticed that too. Trying to get a hold of your supervisor and CC your supervisor as a threat. And it's not direct. It's a covert, it's an implied threat. So all these behaviors you have to definitely monitor, in terms of the clicks, the clicky behavior at the job, where people only gravitate towards certain people, and whenever you try to get in the mix, they want to oust you. Those mean girl type techniques. You have to definitely be careful about those. Especially in predominantly white spaces, if you are the only black employee there, you have to be very, very careful, because those mean girl techniques, they will try to do that often. They won't be direct about it, or they won't be overt, but you'll notice the covert aggression, the covert hostility, And then when you bring it to people's attention, all of a sudden you're overreacting. They'll try to gaslight you. This corporate gaslighting that happens often too. That's what makes these workplaces toxic. But you have to be, once again, a step ahead of the game. You know that that's going to happen. So also, this is a good feature. Begin to document, because they'll oftentimes try to undermine what you're saying. They'll try to deny and make you feel like you're overreacting, like in childhood. when your caretakers try to make you feel like you were overreacting, when you had very real concerns, like you do at your job, you have very real concerns. You see how that dynamic replays? And that's why you're so triggered sometimes, because it brings you back to when other people tried to deny your reality, and undermine your intuition. That's what makes you so enraged, because you're like, wait a minute. What I'm experiencing is very real. So, document, 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 document. Have a file on your Microsoft where you basically document all the occurrences, so that way you're not left out in the cold, because these people, let me tell you, they are shisty, and these places can feel like a snake pit. So you have to make sure that you protect yourself at all costs. So this is Lewis Speaks, wishing everybody a safe and wonderful year. Definitely take care of you, always. And if this video resonated with you, definitely like, subscribe, share with a friend. I hope that this is helpful. All right? Peace.